55 million. Let that number sink in for a second. That is the sheer number of people globally who are currently living with dementia. It's a massive, almost incomprehensible figure, isn't it? But behind that gigantic statistic are real individuals, real families, and real caregivers who are navigating one of the absolute toughest health challenges of our time. And the reality is, the vast majority of these cases, they're Alzheimer's disease.
Welcome back to The Explainer. I am so pumped you're joining us today because our goal is to completely demystify Alzheimer's disease. We're going to unpack the hard medical data to see what is literally happening inside the brain. We'll look at the very real societal hurdles these patients face every single day. And most importantly, we're going to walk through some highly practical strategies for caregivers. Because at the end of the day, understanding this disease isn't just about the science, it's really about empathy.
Okay, here is our game plan for today. We've structured this explainer into 4 clear parts. Part 1 is the biology of Alzheimer's. Part 2 covers the diagnosis journey. Part 3 is risk factors and prevention. And finally, Part 4 is managing behavioral challenges.
Let's jump right into Section 1, the biology of Alzheimer's, unlocking the brain. To understand the why and the how of the behaviors we see later on, we absolutely have to understand the what first.
Inside the brain, it's literally a tale of 2 environments. In a healthy brain, neurons are communicating seamlessly, passing information back and forth. But in Alzheimer's brain, it's like a massive traffic jam. First, you have these beta amyloid protein fragments clumping together to form what we call plaques. These basically act as roadblocks, shutting down communication between cells. Then you've got tau proteins. Normally, they help transport nutrients, but here they twist up into neurofibrillary tangles. This entirely destroys the cell's internal transport system. Without nutrients and communication, the neurons eventually die off, connections are severed, and the physical brain actually shrinks. It is devastating.
Now, aging is for sure the strongest known risk factor, but genetics play a critical role that we just can't ignore. Scientists have specifically pinpointed mutations on chromosome 1, 14, 19, and 21. You've probably heard of the APOE4 gene variant, right? Having that variant significantly bumps up your risk. But here's a really fascinating and important connection: Down syndrome. Because individuals with Down syndrome have a 3rd copy of chromosome 21, which happens to be heavily involved in producing those beta amyloid proteins we just talked about, they often develop Alzheimer's symptoms 10 to 20 years earlier than the general population.
All right, let's pivot to Section 2, the diagnosis journey, stigma, and roadblocks. Because biology is incredibly complex, but sadly, society often makes just identifying the disease way harder than it needs to be.
This next stat just completely blew my mind. According to the World Alzheimer Report, 62% of healthcare practitioners globally believe that dementia is just a normal part of aging. I mean, wow. Even the medical professionals we rely on are deeply misunderstanding this. It's just getting older, right? Actually, scratch that. It is a highly distinct biological process, not just normal aging. And this massive misconception across the medical field is a huge roadblock to patients getting a timely, accurate diagnosis.
And look, the roadblocks don't just magically disappear once you leave the doctor's office. The societal hurdles are huge. 55% of people say they got totally inadequate info when they were diagnosed. Plus, 46% of people literally fear getting a diagnosis because of the intense societal stigma attached to it. And here's the real kicker. 35% of carers globally admit they have hidden the diagnosis from friends and family. That stigma actively blocks people from seeking help, which makes an already terrifying journey feel so incredibly isolating. Okay, so what can we actually do about all this? Let's move into Section 3, risk factors and prevention. Protecting your brain. Because yes, there are things we can actually control here.
You probably already know that sitting on the couch all day is bad for you, but let's rapid fire through some really surprising risk factors. Studies are now directly linking exposure to air pollution, like heavy traffic exhaust and burning wood, to a much higher risk of dementia. Also, untreated vision and hearing loss. Think about it. If your brain isn't getting clear, consistent signals from your eyes and ears, it has to work overtime, and that takes a serious toll. Add in traumatic brain injuries, terrible sleep patterns like sleep apnea, and midlife heart issues like high cholesterol and blood pressure. All of this accelerates cognitive decline. It just proves this whole thing is about way more than simply aging.
But knowing those risks gives us a really solid game plan. Step 1. Get moving and eat a Mediterranean diet. Think olive oil, fresh veggies, you know the drill. Step 2. Do not ignore sensory decline. If you need a hearing aid or glasses, get them.
Step 3, work with your doctor to manage your heart health, because what is good for the ticker is absolutely good for the brain. And step 4, keep that brain active. Keep learning new things, read, go dancing, stay socially engaged. Building up that cognitive reserve is literally like putting armor on your brain's thinking skills.
Finally, we arrive at Section 4, Managing Behavioral Challenges, the Caregiver Toolkit. This is where the rubber meets the road for families navigating the day-to-day reality of the disease.
The absolute most important thing to remember here is that behavior is communication. When words fail, actions take over. Take aggression, for example. If a patient is lashing out, the first thing a caregiver should do is check for physical pain. They might have a UTI or just be really hungry and can't tell you. Don't argue with them, and whatever you do, don't reflect their negative energy back at them. Just stay calm. And for confusion, when they forget where they are, don't scold them. Give simple one-sentence answers. Label doors with big text, put up familiar photos to orient them, and keep their daily routine as predictable as clockwork.
Let's talk about wandering and hoarding. Wandering is super common, but obviously really dangerous. To handle it, put locks up high where they can't easily see them, ensure the patient wears ID tags or GPS trackers, and please proactively tell your neighbors what's going on so they can help keep an eye out. Now, hoarding usually stems from a deep underlying fear of losing things. So instead of fighting them on it, just make a mental note of their favorite hiding spots so you can easily find things later. Or better yet, redirect that anxious energy. Give them a safe, repetitive organizing task, like sorting a giant drawer of socks.
2 more big ones: repetition and sleep issues. If they ask you what time it is 20 times in a row, try to tune into the emotion behind the question. Are they just feeling anxious? Answer them simply, every single time, as if it's the very first time you've heard it. You can also pivot them into a soothing, repetitive activity, like dusting a table. As for sleep, which can literally derail the whole household, keep their bedroom super comfy and safe. Strictly enforce a daytime routine with physical activity to burn off energy, and cut out those daytime naps and afternoon coffees.
I want to just pause for a second here and talk directly to the caregivers. As the research bluntly points out, the degree of behavioral problems is closely related to care burden and affects caregivers physically and psychologically. Listen to me, if you are a caregiver, your health matters just as much. The pure exhaustion, the profound grief of being forgotten by someone you love so much, it is a massively heavy burden. Reaching out for help, joining a local support group, or taking a break for your own mental health isn't selfish. It is absolutely vital so you can keep showing up. We have covered a ton of ground today. From the microscopic biology to the massive societal roadblocks, all the way to practical tools for the home. Yes, Alzheimer's is a devastating disease, but it's a giant puzzle we are actively solving with better science and a whole lot more compassion. So I want to leave you with this. Out of those 55 million minds affected globally, what lifestyle change are you going to make today to protect your own brain? And maybe even more importantly, how can you show up and extend a little empathy to a caregiver in your community right now? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, everyone. Keep learning, keep moving, and take care of each other.